Today, I want to lean into the philosophy aspect of driving philosophy. This is going to be niche content, so please feel free to dislike and unsubscribe. I want to talk about reality because in our present moment, it feels like there are a lot of legitimate questions about what it is and where to find it. Like me, I'm sure many of you are concerned about the rise and impact of artificial intelligence, particularly with respect to the ambiguity it's generating around our trust in and perception of what is real. Now, I'm going to spoil the plot here. While I think these concerns are legitimate, I also think there's cause for hope and confidence that reality is not slipping away, and that it may be closer than you think. So our theme today is driving reality. How driving, real driving of a real car might just be part of the solution in a reality questioning era. Now, before we get to the solution, it's worth spelling out some of the problem. And to do that, we need to wind the clock back just a little to talk about creation. We're at an interesting moment in the history of the relationship between consumers and creators. For all of human history, there's been no need to question the reality of that relationship. People made things. They painted things, wrote things, sculpted things, planned and designed, and produced things. And as consumers of things, we knew that behind everything was a creator with intent and skill and execution. Good things began with good creators, with experience and time and effort invested in the creative process. Great art, great literature, great inventions, great design, great manufacturing, great products, great cars were all the result of great creators engaged in great design being executed by great craftsmen and women. On the other end of the creation process stood the consumer, the one who read or watched or engaged or drove or handled or used the creative things. And for all of human history, we've been able to draw a line from creator to creation to customer. Because of this, the customer became more than a consumer. They were engaged in an ongoing relationship with creators for as long as they engaged the creation. When you read a book, you're not just in dialogue with the book, but with the author as well. There's a conversation going on there, mediated by the created thing. It's the same with art and with any thoughtfully created product. The process is human, the relationship is human, the reality is human. From beginning to end, process, creation, consumption, all of it is fundamentally anthropological. It is people in dialogue with people. The technological revolution, brought about beginning with industrialization, began a breakdown of this relationship. Machines took the place of people in the process of creation. Yes, still designed and perhaps even assembled by people, but the craft of creation began a slow retreat in the face of machine efficiency. The digital age stretched that human relationship yet thinner. The connection between artist and craftsman and consumer was further mediated by pixels, algorithms, and CGI. But even then, tenuous though that connection was becoming, there was still a relationship, however increasingly remote, between creator, creation, and consumer. The recent rise of AI in its many forms has snipped away at the human thread that formerly bound us, and at best, it's made us question reality. At worst, it's provided space for us to deny it altogether. It is no longer clear if there is creative intention on the other side of a creation, or merely artificial facsimile and similitude. In the absence of clarity around what is real and what is not, I think we will see, and even are seeing already, people withdraw from spaces that play to this uncertainty. What I mean is, once this doubt creeps in about what is and isn't real, it's hard not to question everything. It's hard not to feel like you're constantly being tricked. If you cannot trust social media or videos or news, if you cannot tell if you are being deceived or manipulated, if you cannot tell what is real, there is an inclination and desire to fall back on what you know for sure, to pursue reality where reality is not in question. And here there is hope. Reality, actual reality, is no less real now than it has ever been. In a way, the solution is desperately simple. Turn off this video, put down your phone, get up from your computer and go outside. The space where you can be deceived, manipulated, or tricked is as small as the device in your hand. I want to say this again. Reality is no less real and no less present, and there is no less of it than there has ever been. You just need to step back into it. Find products, companies, and experiences that are real. Invest your time, money, and attention there. Eschew the digital dross and dive back into reality. So that perhaps is a little too much of the philosophy side of things. What does this have to do with driving? Well, a lot, actually. You see, driving in its purest form remains deeply, decidedly, and delightfully real. It pulls our eyes up and away from the digital and locks them on the road ahead and the world around. Of course, not all cars do this. Some are laden with screens and artificial intrusions and aids that seek to draw you back into the digital cave, to anesthetize your senses and experience of reality. These are not drivers' cars. These are appliances. And perhaps they have a place, but for those who love driving, who love reality, that place is not on the road. So to whom then do you turn? Who cries in the depths of Plato's cave, the reality is out there, if we would only unshackle ourselves, turn away from the artificial and step into the light? Who is making real cars for real driving in 2026? The reason I love Morgans is fundamentally their reality. You can watch them being made. You can see the human element throughout. Their creators are evident and obvious. The creation is perfectly flawed in deeply human ways. There are variations and peculiarities unique to every build because the cars are real human endeavors. Driving a Morgan mirrors this authenticity. There is a coupling of intentionality and inheritance in how a Morgan drives. You feel its history, what it has received in design, aesthetic, and even components from previous generations. This is married to a new generation of engineers and designers revising and tweaking and improving to both respect that past and enhance the present, while pushing gently and sympathetically into the future. And then there is the reality of the experience of the world around you when you're in a Morgan. You see it and hear it and feel it and smell it without significant mediation. A Morgan doesn't just put you in dialogue with the designers and craftsmen who made it. It puts you in dialogue with the world around you. From inception through execution to delivery and experience, a Morgan is wonderfully real. It is an antidote to digital uncertainty, a cure to artificial anxiety. A drive in a Morgan is always such a happy experience because it is an experience of reality. It doesn't deceive you. You don't have to question its reality. It is purely and truly and authentically real, and it glories in it. Now, none of this is to say Morgan or their cars are perfect. They are not, because what in reality is? But their imperfections are born out of their reality and wholly understandable in that context. I would never advise buying a Morgan before going and seeing how they're made, not just for the literal dialogue with the craftsmen and designers that you can have at the factory, but also to understand how deeply human and real the whole process is. Of course, there remains space for improvement, for iteration and development in engineering and design, but Morgan would be wise not to lose sight in the midst of those improvements of what it is that makes them so extraordinary. I would also suggest this extends to their advertising and marketing. If what you're selling is an undistilled experience of reality, don't compromise with digital imagery and computer-generated advertisements. Don't create a space where your customers have to doubt the reality of what you're showing them. Lean into your brand identity, into what your customers crave, and the reason they come to you. Choose reality, not artificiality, to announce your next wonderfully real car. And if you're in the market for a real car, not a gizmo or appliance, then do yourself a favor. Go and see how a Morgan is made. Watch the craft and skill that goes into them. Arrange a test drive, a long one if you can swing it, and experience the kind of driving reality you remember from decades now past. Because if you love reality and love driving, I'd happily walk way out on a very long ash tree limb to suggest you will love driving and owning a Morgan. In the relationship between creators and customers, the reality of the creation that comes between them matters, now more than ever. In an era where we can't trust if that creation is real or not, and our inclination is to doubt, our desire to pull away, it has never been more important than to confirm the value of reality. So it's worth celebrating that there remain creators, craftsmen, and consumers who care about driving reality. Basically, what I'm saying is that Socrates would drive a Morgan, so maybe you should too.